Hello soulmates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in this video I'm going to be teaching us how to cut and sew this short pant. So if this is something you like, please stay tuned to the end of the video as I show you the step-by-step process on how to go about cutting and sewing it. So now let's get right into drafting of the shorts. So I'm going to be drafting the front pattern first of the shorts. So I left the starting line at the top and by the side here, so I can be able to draft out the shorts perfectly. So first off, I'm going to mark the crotch. I'm going to try to get the crotch. So you can see I took 1.5 inches from the starting line. So that 1.5 inches is for the band. So to get your crotch, just say your hip measurement divided by 4. Or whatever you have for your crotch, just place it minus the 1.5 inches for the band. So then you go ahead and roll a straight line across, just as you can see. I'm going to go up by 2.5 inches or 2 inches to get the hip measurement. That's to get the hip line. So yeah, I'm just going to roll a straight line across, just as you can see. Then I'm just going to go ahead and label it the hip line and the crotch line, just as you can see. So next up, we're going to get the length of the short pants. So the length I'm working with is 17 inches. You make sure you take away the band from it. Then you go ahead and roll a straight line like this. Then you also label your pattern as the length. So on the crotch line, I'm going to be placing quarter of the hip measurement. You divide your hip by 4. I'm going to be placing quarter of the hip measurement divided by 4. So I'm going to be adding extra 0.5 inches to it. This is because it's not going to be fitted along that area. So whatever you have, you mark it on the waistline as well. So you roll a straight line across, just as you can see. So now to get the crotch extension for the front, it is your hip measurement divided by 20. Your hip measurement divided by 20 for the crotch extension. Then I'm going to be getting an angle 90 around that crotch line. So I wrote a straight line, just as you can see. So on that line, I marked about 1 inch. On this line, I marked 1 inch so that it will be easy for me to curve it so that it won't be too deep. Do you understand? So that the curve will not be too deep. So this is what we have. So on the waistline, you are going to mark quarter of your waist measurement. You can add ease if you want, plus 1 inch for that 1 inch is for that pleat that is in front of the shorts. So it could be 1 inch or 1.25, depending on how wide you want that part to be. So I just go ahead and connect it to the hip line, just as you can. So now you're going to get the midpoint of what you have on your crotch line. So whatever you have, you mark it on the crotch line and on the length of the short pants. Then you roll a straight line across. So now for you to get what you place on your short length, so you can just whatever measurement you have on your crotch line, you can just deduct 2 inches from it and divide it by 2. Then you place it on both sides, or whatever you have on your body when you measure it, you place it. Do you understand? Divide it by 2 and place it there. Yeah, I'm going to be marking for the pocket. So depth at that point I marked about 1 inch. Then I came down by 5.5 inches. So I'm going to determine the length of the pocket. So I marked about 8 inches. So just draw this line. It's just a guide. The pocket opening, you can use 5.5 inches or 5 inch. So I'm just going to connect it to this point this way. So after that, I marked about 3 inches inward. Then I'm just going to go ahead and use the curvy part of my ruler just to have this curvy effect for the pocket, just as you can see. Just as you can see. We are done drafting the front, so go to the back. Go ahead and draft the back. So these lines, I already drew these lines for the back. So it's basically the same lines that I drew for the front pattern. The same lines are the same lines I drew for the back. Do you understand? Now you can see the lines have been labeled: the waistline, the hip line, the crotch length, and the short length. And you can see the waistline has more of space at the top. So now I'm just going to place in here the measurement we have, like your hip measurement divided by 4 plus the ease. Remember that ease. So I'm just going to be marking it on the crotch line all through to the waistline plus the ease. Do you understand? Just like we marked it for the front, I'm doing same for the back. Do you understand? So it's basically just like a guide. So at that point, I came in by 1 inch. I came in by 1 inch at that point. So I'm just going to be getting the crotch extension for the back. So the crotch extension for the back is your hip measurement divided by 10. So you see what I marked there. So I marked the crotch extension. So on the waistline, I came in by 2 inches. Then I'm going to be connecting it to that 1 inch that I came in inwards by, just as you can see. So at the crotch extension, there, where I mark the crotch extension, I'm going to come down by 0.5 inches. Come down by 0.5 inches. So I'm just going to be connecting that part to the hip line here, just as you can see. So I'm just going to mark 1 inch here. This is just a guide so that I'll be able to get the curve very well. You know, you have to be careful with the curve. So this is what I'm just using a freehand at first, then I use my roller to blend it all in, just as you can see. You can see what we have now. So I'm going to be adding extra paper to the side. So for the extension, so I'm just going to be adding extra paper to the side, just as you can see. So I use my paper tape to hold it down, then just extend the lines that I have there already. So now, you remember the midpoint that we have here for the front, this part. So I'm just going to mark it for the back here as the midpoint. This is just a guide for me. So I just go ahead and rule a straight line across, just as you can see. You rule a straight line across this way. So you remember on the waistline at the center back, you come up by 1 inch. That's the extension. Then you place your waist measurement on the waistline plus 1 inch for that. You place it plus 1 inch for that. If you had ease to it, you can also place the ease back. Do you understand? If you had ease, you can place the ease back. You can see what I have there. I'm marking it directly on the waistline. So now on this hip line, I'm going to mark the hip measurement divided by 4 plus the ease. Because we already took out from that crotch area, you can see that part. So I need to replace it back on the hip line, just as you can see, and on the crotch line this way, so that everything can align well. Are you seeing what I'm doing? So just go ahead and connect the point this way, just as you can see. So now let's move to the short line, this line. So whatever measurement that you have on both sides of the front, you measure it at the back, then you just add extra 1 inch on both sides. Do you understand what I'm saying? So whatever you have for the front, you just add extra inch on both sides for the front, just as you can see. So the connection, so at that part here, remember I came down by half an inch at that part. I'm going to replace it at the bottom this way. So I'm just going to extend the line so that the length will not be short. Then I'll connect it by this side this way, just as you can see. You can see this space is looking funny, like it's not really looking it's looking too curvy or something. So I just try to like adjust that part a little bit. So now we are done drafting the front and the back pattern, just as you can see. So just try to blend out any part that you see that is pointy, just blend it out. So now I'm just going to take this piece of paper and fold it into two. I'm going to be tracing the pocket out. So you need 2 pieces for your pockets. So look at what I'm doing. So I'm just going to be using my tracing wheel to trace the pockets. So mind you, the rain is falling, so you might be hearing a bit of raindrops. So you can see what I'm doing. Just trace it. So by the time I was done, this is what I have. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut. So I'm supposed to use my tape to make the lines visible. So that is what I have for the pockets though. You can see I'm cutting for the front piece. So just carefully cut it out. That's what I'm doing. So if you've not liked this video at this point, please kindly do so. So here I'm cutting out the back pattern, just as you can see. So just carefully cut it, just as you can see. So this is what we have. So now we're going to move ahead to the sewing tutorial of the shorts. So I have about 1.5 yards of crepe. Then you need your zipper, you need your pins, you need your drafted pattern, your ruler, your scissors, you need stay, you need your thread, you need your sewing machine. If you have a weaving machine, you need that too. So now for the front pattern here, so at the bottom I added 1.5 inch for hemming. So around the crotch line and the waist I added 0.5 inches. So by the side here I added 1 inch, and by the side on the other side I added 1 inch. So around the pocket area I added half an inch, and I started blending it 1 inch down so that it would be easy for me to sew the pocket. So I didn't want to add like 1 inch around that part, but if you add 1 inch, you just make sure you sew that 1 inch away. So now for the back I added 1.5 inch around the bottom part, then by the two side 1 inch, around the crotch area and the waistline 0.5 inches across. So now this is the band. So for the length of the band, just have extra length too. Then for the width is about 4 inch. So this is the pocket. This is one side of the pocket. This is one side of the pocket. So I'm just going to be showing you where this one goes. See, it's the one that goes in beneath it, just as you can see, and this one comes up on the pocket. So here around this side I added 0.5 inch around this side, and I blended 1 inch. You can see I'm placing it on the front to just show you what I mean. So I blended it by 1 inch, but for this one by the side I added 1 inch to it. Then all around the other part I added 0.5 inches for it. So you need a zipper flyer. So this is the zipper flyer. So this is folded into two, and the width is about 2 inches and the length is about 9 inches. So make sure that you curve it around the bottom part, just as you can see. This is one fold. So this one is the zipper shield. So have this about 2 inches in width, then the same length as the other one. Then you make sure that you curve it at the bottom part. So this is what you'll be using for the zipper area, these two pieces. So now let's move to the front panel. So I'm just trying to mark the wrong side on both sides. So you're going to determine where the zip will stop. So here I marked about 7.5 inch. This is where to stop. So you mark it like this. Then you're going to just sew around this part that I am marking with the chalk by 0.5 inches. You're going to sew that part to that point that I marked. I'm going to sew it by 0.5 inches. So now your zipper flyer and the shield, if you have a weaving machine, you use your weaving machine to hold it by the side, that's around the curvy part, so that it doesn't frill. Do you understand? So I don't have a weaving machine, so I'm using bias. You can see I use bias for the two sides. So now I've gone ahead to sew this part, just as you can see. I've gone ahead to sew this part. So now you can see I used about 7.5 inches. So now at that point you're just going to notch it a bit. That point where you marked earlier, you're going to notch it a bit. Reason for doing this is so that it will be easy for you to sew. So now I'm going ahead to open this up like this. So next up is you're going to take your zip, you turn it this way. You can see where I turned on the zip. You turn it this way. This zip is a little bit longer, so then you place it by the side this way. You place it close to the edge of this part. You place it like close to the edge, then you use your pin to hold it. You use your pin to carefully hold it, just as you can see. Don't rush the process, just carefully use your pin to hold it this way. So when you use your pin to hold this way, you are going to be sewing very close on that part. You can see where it's just small piece. You are going to be sewing closely on that part. Do you understand? You are going to be sewing very closely on that part. So this is what I have after sewing it. You can see what I mean by sewing closely on that part. So this is what I have. So if you don't understand it at this point, I don't want the video to be too long. So yes, I'm going to drop a link in the comments where I'm going to be showing you a detailed tutorial on how to fix this zipper flyer. It's going to be detailed, so I'm going to take my time to explain it there. You understand? So remember on it, on that zipper part, we use 7.5 inches. So on the zipper shield, I'm going to have 7.5 inches plus extra 1 inch on the zipper flyer and the shield. So I'm just cutting off the excess. I'm just adding extra 1 inch. Do you understand? On for the zipper flyer and the shield. So now I'm going to be taking the one that is on fold, not the single one, which is the zipper flyer. So I'm going to be placing it closely on that part, on that zipper part. So now you're also going to be sewing closely on it. You're going to sew closely on it. So this is what I have when I mean sewing closely on it. You can see the back, you can see what it looks like on the inside. So that is what I mean sewing closely on it. So now I'm going to take the zipper shield. I'm going to place it closely on that part. You can see what I'm doing. Then I'm going to sew a little bit of it, not so much, maybe like 0.25 inch. So I'm going to sew that part. So this is what I have after sewing. And make sure that you also top stitch it by the time you are done sewing. So now I'm flipping into the other side. So I'm just going to use my pin to hold that part so it doesn't get in the way of this other part like this. So now you are going to take the part of the zipper of that other side. Then you are going to fix it on this zipper shield here. So I see I'm using my pins to hold it down. So this is like you are doing a cover. You're trying to cover up on the zipper part. So now you're just going to go and sew across that part. You're going to sew across that part. So now showing you this way is that the zipper part is covered. So now I've sewn around that part. So this is what we have after sewing. You can see this is what we have. So I'm just taking off the pins. So I'm just going to rearrange the pins again because we are going to go ahead and sew on the front part so that we can stitch that part so that it doesn't move. This part we're going to stitch. You know that part on your trouser that looks curvy, so that is what I want to do now. So I'm just marking 1 inch across, and I'm just going to read a straight line just for guiding. Curve it at this point, at that point, just as you can see. So on this line now is where you are going to be sewing. You're going to sew around that part. You can see what I mean. So this is what I have after sewing it. So this is what I have. So now I'm going to be taking off the pins. So I'm just going to be placing the two zipper flyers together, then just sew around that part. So I'm cutting the excess of the zip away. Just stitch that place just so that it can hold it down so that it doesn't move. So this is what we have. So now this is what we have after sewing our zip. You can see what it looks like. So this is what it looks like after we're done sewing the zip parts. So we are done with the zip parts. If you look at the short clearly very well, there's a design around the front part. So it's around the dart line. So I'm just trying to mark the dart line. So make sure that you have marked your dart line from the beginning. So, when drafting, just indicate your dart line. So remember I used 1 inch. So you can use more, maybe 1.25 inch. So you can see I'm just going to close the dart this way. I'm not closing the dart inside, but I'm just going to run a stitch on it. I'm using my pin, but at the end of the day, I ran a stitch at the front about 1 inch. I ran a stitch. So I'm just going to stitch it down for now. So now I'm going to be placing the pockets. So this side of the pocket, so there's one part of the pocket that is this way that I've shaped a little bit. So this is what I'm placing. So I'm just going to sew it by 0.5 inch up to the pocket opening where it's going to open. That's around 5.5 inches. So you can see I'm indicating it like this is where it's going to stop. So I'm also going to do that for the other side as well. So you can see. So just indicate where you are going to stitch it up to. So I'm going to, when you flip it in, this is what it's going to look like. So now I'm going to add the second part of the pockets. So this one goes under. You can see the second part of the pocket goes under. So now this is what it looks like after I was done sewing. Then I make sure I notched it at that part so that it can go in conveniently well. Then I also top stitch it. So I'm placing that second part of the pocket. See the way I'm placing it? You place it this way first, then you turn it to the other side because you want the sewing to be inside, not that the sewing will be outside. Do you understand? So you go ahead and sew 0.5 inches round. Then you do that for the second pocket, the second side of the pocket as well. So this is what we have after sewing. You can see what it looks like, and make sure that you iron press it. And see, this is what we have for both sides. I'm just going to use my pins just to secure it down. So this is what we have. Just carefully arrange it. For the back piece, so I'm taking out the pins. So we're going to take out the pattern paper. So we're going to sew around the crochet 0.5 inches all around. You sew it. So I've gone ahead to sew it. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like after sewing it. So remember that I also added that at the back. So at this point I was contemplating if I should use the pleat, the same pleat I use for the front for the back. Do you understand? So at the point where just indicate your dart line like this, then you get the pleat. Do you understand? But in this case, though I marked the pleat, but at the end of the day I didn't use the pleats. I used I sew in the darts, like normal darts. So I sew in the dart. So you might just ignore whatever I'm doing there, but just make sure I just sew in the dart like your normal way of sewing that. So I'm going to sew around this part by 1 inch all around. Since it's 1 inch I added, then also by the two sides you take your measurements. I added 1 inch on both sides. I'm just going to sew around 1 inch. So this is what it looks like after sewing it. So there's the water from the iron that is showing at the bottom. So this is what it looks like after sewing. So this is the back, this is the darts, as you can see. So this is what it looks like. So next up I'm going to show you the band. So the band, I ironed ST to it, just as you can see, and I folded it in by 0.5 on both sides, making sure that they are facing each other. Like you iron it in a way that they are facing each other. So this rope I used about 0.75 for the width, then I sew it straight. So this is what we are going to be using for the belt hole. So I'm going to be placing this by the side. So next up, that rope I mentioned earlier, so I cut it about 4 inches in length. So you are going to be adding it to the sewing, like your dart. This is that part, then the sewing by the side. Everywhere that has joining is where I am going to be placing this rope. You can see. So place it all around, then you sew it. So you go ahead and sew it all around as well. So this is what it looks like after sewing all around, where it has joining by the side and at the back, and the dart line, that is where I added it. So next up, we are going to be fixing the band. So you make sure that you sew one part of your band this way. You sew it by 0.5 inches on the wrong side, then you tuck it in this way. So now you are just going to be adding the band to your short. So it's either you sew it this way, so this is the reason for ironing on both sides, or you do it the other way, that you sew it all around first, then you turn it to the other side, then you top stitch. So this one I'm just trying to put the shorts into the band all around, and make sure that whatever you are putting in is about 0.5 inches. So you make sure to use your pins to hold it down. So this is one process. So the other process you can do is you sew it first on the wrong side, then you flip it to the other side, then you top stitch. That's another way you can sew your band. So I'm just doing this one just for a change. So this is what it looks like after pinning it all around. So when you get to this edge, this other part, you are going to cut out the excess and leave about 0.5 inches, just as you can see. Then I'm going to open it up and flip it to the other side and sew that 0.5 inches. Then cut out the excess. Do you understand? Then turn it in. So I'm going to go ahead and sew. So just be careful when you are sewing. To stitch in the front and the back band, you stitch it together with the short. So you stitch it together. So next up, you are going to be sewing 0.5 inch around this band. You sew 0.5 inch. You sew it together with the short. You sew 0.5 inches all around. You sew it together with the short. Like on each belt hole, you sew below this part by 0.5 inches. You just stitch it down. You make sure that you sew it all around the short part, all around the short, wherever the rope is, you sew it. You are going to sew it all around. You are going to sew 0.5 inches all around. So by the time you do that, then you are going to fold it this way. That's what I have. Then you fold, you cut excess, making sure you leave half of an inch. Making sure you leave half of an inch. Then you fold it this way. When you fold it this way, you are going to be top stitching. You are going to do that for the shorts all around. You are going to do it for it all around. So this is what you have after sewing it all around. So if you have button, you can place your button, or if you have hook and eye, whatever you have, you can just place it at that point to just secure that part firmly. So I'll just use my pin to hold that part firmly. So this is what the short looks like. You can see. So what it looks like for now. So now, remember I said I top stitch it down. So I top stitch it down this way by 1 inch. You can see. Then I use iron to iron it to get that crease line. You can see. To get that crease line. So instead of using that pleat at the waistline, I top stitched it, and I use iron to get the crease line. So this is what the short looks like at the end of the day. So guys, if you've not liked this video and subscribed at this point, please kindly do so. Please hit on the subscribe button, comment, like and share. So guys, thank you for watching. See you in my next